Hi, welcome to week 7 of HUMA 1010, the art of being human. I thought I'd put the camera where one of our paintings hangs here in our house in Zelienople, and it's a painting by Sally Sutton, who's a North Carolinian artist by way of Culver City, California. And it is in an impressionistic style of oil painting. Beautiful. We love the effect of it here in the hallway as we come up the stairs. And I wanted painting, especially impressionist painting, to be a backdrop, partly because there is a shift, a big shift in the world of both art and music as we enter into or exit from the 19th century into the 20th century. In many ways, it is a rebellion against a lot of the things that stood as pillars of culture, of society, of thinking. We've already had the burst of emotion with the Romantic period, and then there was the settlement in realism. That is to say, to depict the everyday, so to speak, and everyday landscapes and things. And yet there's still a discontent or a drive to becoming or be discovering new ground and new ideas. And so we have a real shift, especially, think about it this way. If you're a realist painter and we discover and perfect the technology of the photograph, wow, what do you do with realism at that point? We can actually see real photographs of Abraham Lincoln and others from that period, and even the grisliness of the war dead in the Civil War by 1863, 1864. So there is a turn towards exploring new visions and new ways of seeing really what the Impressionists were doing. We're envisioning a new world based on the optics of sight and discovering how light interacts with our own perceptions, how our perceptions interact with light. Additionally, there are a number of other changes that come. Music itself, remember, it had an architectural shift musically to the classical period that then gives way to the fire and emotion and power and exuberance of the Romantic period. And then along comes people like Claude Debussy, a French composer who was steeped in the art songs of people like Robert Schumann and others. I'm going to include a piece, one of his very beautiful art songs, Bonsoir. But he comes along and develops in many ways a musical style that could be signified as ambiguity. Certainly that's what Leonard Bernstein, the great conductor of the New York Philharmonic, once said in a lecture, which I'm going to include in your packet of stuff this week, that you're never sure where he's going to go. You think you have an idea of where he's going musically in terms of the architecture if you assume certain principles and certain structures and conventions that way leads on to way. And yet, Debussy goes somewhere else. Indeed, music, art, even architecture goes somewhere else. And that's what we're exploring this week. It's a week, as I said earlier, there's a bit of rebellion, and there's certainly a bit of the avant-garde, because there are things happening in music and in art and in architecture among all of the humanities that begin to question everything. There's a great old saying, I'm not sure where it comes from, but I like it. The reason our heads are round is so that our thoughts can change direction. In so many ways, the artists, composers, the architects, all of those who were giving themselves to the humanities in the various forms in which they did that, were changing our thinking and allowing us an opportunity to see new visions, to hear new things. And so this week we focus, as we get closer and closer to the end of our time together, on the dawning of a new century, that is the 20th century, the one that most recently left us now that we're 15 years into the 21st. Nevertheless, it is that dawning that leads to so much in the way of change and so much in the way of exploration and discovery. And that will be your task this week as we look at art and music in particular. We're going to look at the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright in a local work of his that the American Institute of Architects named as the #1 most important building in American architecture in the last 150 years. And that is Falling Water. Perhaps some of you have seen that up close and personally. It's right there in Mill Run, Pennsylvania, not more than an hour and a half from where I'm standing. And it's a magnificent structure that was built in Frank Lloyd Wright's style of organic architecture. He had a phrase that said, "Form follows function." That is to say that a building's use and its location, where is it in the landscape, those things are primary considerations before you go and start playing with the form of the building, the actual art of the building itself. And so he works with the Kaufman family to create one of the most significant architectural structures in American history. And so we will look at a lovely video piece that was produced by WQED here some years ago in celebration of Falling Water. We're also going to be looking at certainly some of the key artists of this time period. But I also wanted to spend some time listening to the music of one of my favorite composers, Claude Debussy. As I mentioned to you earlier, a person who leads us along with these beautiful impressionistic colors in his sounds. In many ways, he is an impressionist painter in sound, much as Claude Monet or some of the others, Renoir, and some of the others were painting canvases. He was painting for the ear, this beautiful, mysterious, melodic, complex, ambiguous, musical scenery and how that affects us. It's really marvelous stuff. So I hope you will enjoy that. As we come into this 7th week, we have a number of things that are happening. Obviously, the play happened last week. We'll be taking a quiz on that shortly. You will also be turning in a couple of projects this week that are due, the museum critique and also the alternative arts project. I also am going to be building into your work, including the final exam next week, a short music project that I want you to work on as well. Your careful attention to studying for the final exam, for your participation in the discussion forum this week, and making sure that your work is in and on the Blackboard shell will go a long way towards your good conclusion for the semester. So we are here in week 7, and I believe, as I've read your posts and others, that your heads are round so that your thoughts can change direction and be blessed by the beauty that is a world of color and sound. Enjoy this week. Take care.